Hello everyone, my name is Carlos. I'm a game developer, photographer, and watch enthusiast, and today I want to share with you guys my review and first impressions of the Boderry Strom. So the way that I found out about the Boderry Strom was through a Facebook ad, and honestly I didn't really know much about the brand. It was pretty obvious to me that it was a Chinese brand similar to other AliExpress brands, but to be honest, I hadn't really run into their watches before. This particular watch kind of caught my attention for a couple of things. One, it's a pretty affordable watch at $300 basically, and if you get it either through AliExpress or you go through the Boderry website, you can actually get a bit of a discount on your first watch. So really the watch, you can get it out the door for around $270 US. The other thing that I thought was really interesting was that some of these Chinese skeletonized movements that I've seen before actually look really cool and are really affordable. So if you're into the internals of the watch and seeing how the watch actually works, skeletonized watches are actually a great choice for that. The kind of other selling points were kind of the design a little bit. I'm actually a really big fan of two brands, Zenith, which is part of the LV group and is, whether people like it or not, takes a lot of cues from Hublot, and also Cartier, and specifically the Cartier Santos. So as we look close into this watch, you can kind of see a lot of the influences of the Santos and maybe even some of the Hublot vibe. With that said, I still think that this particular Chinese brand is doing a really good job at taking cues from other major brands but still making creations that are unique. So I wouldn't by any means consider this particular watch a homage. With that said, some of the other features that I thought were really great was the fact that this watch is still a 4-hertz watch and it sports a 72-hour power reserve. Now, I'm a big fan of the 2824s, especially for affordable watches, and I'm a really big fan of 4-hertz watches. So being able to get that higher bit rate of 4 hertz alongside the power reserve of 72 hours for basically $270, it was something that was very intriguing to me, especially because those type of movements on the Swiss side through ETA brands or through ETA movements tend to be on watches that retail well over $1,000, sometimes in the $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 range. The last kind of thing that really sort of made me interested in purchasing this watch was not only that I liked the stats on paper and I liked the design and I kind of liked the inspiration, but honestly I had about $150 worth of credit card points in my credit card. So that meant that if I used my credit card points, I could actually get this watch for closer to $150. So for $150, doing the mental gymnastics here of a watch addict, the watch kind of seemed like a pretty cool watch to try out for a relatively low price. Now, the one thing to know about these Chinese watches, all of these AliExpress brands, is that they are a bit of a crapshoot. The Chinese do some really cool movements and they do some really cool watches. There's chronometers, there's micro rotors, there's this skeletonized 4 hertz 72 power reserve movements. With that said, it's good to know that every time that you're buying these Chinese watches, it's basically like flipping a coin. There's a 50% chance that you're going to get a watch that more than meets your expectations, and there's a 50% chance that you're going to get a watch that either breaks relatively quickly, comes not working as expected, or basically it's incredibly inaccurate. So you really kind of have to like gambling to some degree to see if the particular watch that gets shipped to you is actually going to be worth the price of admission. So with that said, this particular Boderry Strom is a pretty awesome watch. I have to admit it. My first impression was really great. The case and finish is pretty good for $300. One of the cool things about this watch is that it sports a titanium case. Now, I'm not sure what grade of titanium this particular watch uses, but it's pretty cool that for basically under $300, you can get a titanium case, 4 hertz, 72-hour power reserve, and a skeletonized movement that looks a lot better than some of the Miyotas and Seikos that basically stand at the same price range. Some of the other cool things about this watch is that the crystal is really amazing. It has a sapphire crystal that's a little bit curved. So for those of you that really like a lot of that distortion vibe on your watch, this is definitely gonna hit that spot. It's something that you're gonna enjoy quite a bit. The other thing that I really liked about this watch, but it's also a bit of a hit or miss, is the clasp. The clasp is a steel spring-loaded clasp. Kind of definitely makes makes the watch feel a little bit more luxurious for the price. But at the same time, the mechanism's probably not the safest because it basically has a little stud that goes into the holes of the strap, and there's nothing keeping that stud from basically sliding out and having your watch hit the ground. Once it's on the wrist, it feels relatively sturdy, but it does make me a little bit nervous the way the actual stud sort of connects to the rubber watch band. As far as legibility goes, that's definitely one of the weaknesses of this watch, like most other skeletonized watches. But for the most part, I found that you can get used to reading the hands under most circumstances. But I think the biggest problem as far as legibility goes is really that curved crystal. Whether it has anti-reflectant or not, I don't know. But anytime you have like a dome or curved crystal, this is gonna catch way more reflection, and that's definitely gonna affect that legibility along with the skeletonized aspect of it. As far as the super luminova and the glowing hands, every single time that I came in an area that wasn't well lit, I never really noticed the lume, so just don't expect anything just as far as lume. So for the most part, I have to say that this watch is phenomenal on paper. However, there was one thing that really incredibly disappointed me. I don't know if you guys will agree with this, but when I got the watch, the first thing that I did was I started playing with the crown. I immediately noticed that when you go to set the time, the second hand does not hack. For a $300 watch with 4 Hz and 72-hour power reserve, not having hacking in the movement really seems like a huge missed opportunity. So that would be kind of like the only downside to this watch. If you like skeletonized watches and you like big watches, this is definitely a hunky one. And you're interested in this watch and you like all the specs and you like the way it looks, I think not having the hacking might be the deal breaker for you. However, if you don't care about hacking, I would feel pretty comfortable recommending this watch to you. Now, before you go ahead and purchase it, I do want to let you know about the accuracy of the watch. This is kind of where you start seeing the difference between like those really expensive watches like the Santos and maybe like a Zenith. Those watches are just way more accurate. Now, that's not to say that the accuracy of this particular watch is not okay. It's definitely workable, but it's not anything that will impress you. After putting on a time grapher, the slowest position was about 16 seconds, with the fastest position also being about 16 seconds. For the most part, looking at the time grapher numbers, I think that even though there's quite a bit of deviation, you're probably gonna get 10 to 15 seconds a day, plus or minus, as far as the accuracy goes. The other thing is that this watch is also very thick. It's very thick and it's very big. I have an 8-inch wrist. When I see it in pictures, when I see it in video, when you see it on wrists like that, it might look a lot bigger. I think that once you put your hands down and you kind of see it from far away, if you have 7 to 8-inch wrists, I think that you'll be okay. But just know that it's definitely a beefy watch. So that's pretty much it, guys. I'm really excited about having this watch. You know, it's one of those watches that when I first opened it, I was kind of disappointed by that lack of hacking. When I put it on the time grapher, I was a little disappointed by the fact that it wasn't like, you know, under 10 seconds a day, and it was a little bit looser than that. However, it's accurate enough where I think it's worth keeping. And you know what? The longer that I have this watch on my wrist, honestly, kind of like the more I like it. And my favorite part, more than anything, was really seeing the balance wheel under magnification, because you can really see the light coming through on the back end, and you really get to appreciate the palette fork and the jewels on the palette fork kind of doing their thing. So that's pretty much it, guys. If you guys enjoyed this review, please give me a like, subscribe to the channel. I'm a pretty new channel on YouTube. I purchase all of my own watches. When I'm showing you a watch, I'm basically just showing you my collection. So yeah, anyways, I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you next time. Bye.